that we have accumulated in our species, in our emotional circuits, due to patriarchy and due to the last 6,000 years of the patriarchal nightmare and the predators coming to the fore, cannot be undone by us. That harm cannot be undone by us. It's too massive. But she is undoing that harm by destroying what I call the psychic infrastructure of the dominator behavior. And that includes the dominator behavior in every single area of life. You see, the dominator behavior, whether it be exhibited by a pedophile who's grooming a 10-year-old kid on the internet, whether it's demonstrated by a lying politician, whether it's demonstrated by the bloodlust of some military, of some general or some soldier, whether it's demonstrated by the financial terrorists who destroy lives. No matter what form this dominator predator mentality is taking, it's supported by an infrastructure that has been put in place over these many centuries. And she is taking down that infrastructure. It's like a controlled demolition in the human psyche. It's just going to fall apart. And the ground is going to collapse under the feet of these people who are driven by those syndromes and by those archetypes of behavior. We can't do that. She's doing that. Mm-hmm. She's really undermining the whole system of domination from inside out. And I can see her doing that. I can see certain signs of that happening more and more. Our job then is to work with what happens when it all falls down and when the playing field becomes level, you know. And one of the most important jobs we have is to get back to basics with each other, get back to basics with the earth. I mean, there are many things that people are already saying. I don't have to repeat what other people can say better. But what other people cannot perhaps say is that we have to make absolutely sure that they don't reboot that system as they do every single time. See, we're facing right now the moment of a fantastic revolution, the opportunity for a truly global revolution to overthrow the dominator and perpetrator gangsters that are running this planet and to bring down their systems. But there's a real problem with this if we haven't learned the lesson of history. Every other revolution, from the French Revolution to the American Revolution, and especially to the Russian Revolution, which presents a great lesson for us, has been redirected by the parties to their own ends. You know, redirected by the perpetrators to their own ends. And this revolution will also be, unless we take them down and don't allow them to do that. So we've really got a critical learning experience here facing us in terms of not making the mistakes of previous social revolutions. And that's our job. But she will do what we can't do. She is doing what we can't do. And that is bring down the infrastructures. Because she has the power to do that. See, we can't bring them down because they've been accumulated over so many years. They're like layers and layers of behavioral programming layered into the human psyche. No single person can bring that down on the global scale. You can only work through your own layering and programming, right?
Yeah. What that brings to mind is in the last couple months, I've had an odd floaty sensation in my head where I'm not thinking about life or doing. I'm still doing, but it's not planned really, but I seem to be doing things in the right time. It looks organized, but it's not. It's just this odd floaty sensation in my head.
I have to tell you, so many people, so many members of the crew of this experiment have reported this same thing. And I have it as well, and it's been very acute since March 19th when she kicked off correction by breaking the chiral lock. And one of the things that you feel at first by the liberation of the chiral lock, by the opening up of the free play of the first and second attention, is that you feel kind of loose at odd ends. You can't really concentrate, but you still get things done. You can't kind of read or focus in the way that you used to, but nevertheless, something is coming into focus, you know? We're still in this period, but it's becoming now more, it's even now shifting again. But we've been in this period for a while, been in this state of mind, because this is how you feel when you're in correction with her. Now, I would say that one of the things to observe about this is that as your attention, as your ability to focus becomes more returns, you will find that you will focus on the things that you can actually be effective at, the things that matter. And the floaty feeling is her pulling away the rest. You know, the oppression, it's so oppressive to live in an atmosphere of deceit and domination 24 hours a fucking day, you know? Mm-hmm. It's oppressive. And yet that oppression is lifting. And you feel that by that floaty effect. And I have it, and so many people are telling me that they have it as well.
Yeah, okay. And then my next question is kind of an astrological one. I've been noticing, I live in the country, and the full moon is usually really bright. You can walk around during the full moon, and when it's the new moon, it's black. You can't see anything.
Right.
And the half moon has been as bright as the full moon. You
tell me about it. Explain that. It has been as bright as the full moon, hasn't it?
The light was coming in my window, and I'm thinking, it can't be the full moon because we're past that. And I looked out, and it's the half moon. And I spoke to someone in a different state, and she saw the same thing.
Yes. Many people are seeing the same thing. And some of us are discussing it with each other. Others are just seeing it, noticing it, and probably not even making a mental note of it. But it's unmistakably noticeable. I don't know what's happening with the moon. I have to tell you that the moon is a part of the Gaian ecosystem. The moon, the sun, and the earth are all a part of the Gaian ecosystem. They are not separate. The other planets are separate from the moon, sun, earth trinity. So things are going to be happening with the moon in correction, and things are happening. And so far, they're just inexplicable anomalies. And I can't explain. It just has something to do with what she's doing. I can't tell you what it is, but I'll give you the most recent example. Here I am up in Belgium, and unlike where I live in Spain, it's very flat here. You know, Flanders, it's absolutely pancake flat. So that I'm in faces out directly on the west. And so I was here the day of the fall equinox, and so when the sun set, I knew that the sun set due west, because that's where it sets on the day of the equinox, right? I thought, oh, well, I know a new moon is coming too, and I really want to observe it closely, because I want to see if it falls in the Virgin, and it would be another Shodashi cycle, or if I'm going to sight it in the scales, and that tells us that Vishvamata is on, which is in fact what happened. So I ought to look at the moon the first night that I'm able to see it. Now, I have absolutely ideal viewing conditions. You know, this is what's called the sunset crescent, right? It's the one that fits into your right hand, okay? It fits into the thumb and finger of your right hand, the sunset crescent. The crescent is defined by, supposed to be, defined by the sun shining at the moon, therefore illuminating that small part of the moon. And then you see the crescent moon at sunset, right? Well, I go out there and I look, and I look, and I look, and there's the crescent moon. But it's impossible. Because the moon is standing on its tip. If you try to visualize the crescent, you know, it appears at a different angle each time, doesn't it? Slightly different angle. Sometimes you see the crescent moon, it can almost be like a dish sitting on its back, right? Sitting on its bottom. It was standing on its tip after the sun had gone down and continued to stand on its tip like vertically 20 minutes or half an hour after the sun went down. Well, did you understand that's physically impossible? because it would have to be tipped. The disc, the crescent, would have to be tipped toward the sun to reflect the fact that it is being illuminated by the direct rays of the sun. But it wasn't tipped. In fact, I stood there and I looked at the flat horizon of Flanders, and I saw the crescent moon standing on its tip as if the sun were in exact parallel to the horizon. But the sun had set half an hour before. You explain that. It doesn't make any sense. And this keeps going on and on. And variations in the angle of the moon and variations in the brilliance of the moon are remarked now by more and more people. What do they mean? I can't precisely tell you, but I would strongly suggest that it has to do with changes that she's making in the solar-lunar dynamic. And so, at some point, we're going to understand, perhaps in physical terms, what these changes are. Because, the moon is so much geared into the physical world, into our brains, into the woman's reproductive system, into the behavior of insects and animals, and the ocean, of course. So we'll see, but what you're seeing is real. It's a real anomaly, and it's inexplicable.
Yeah, it's just strange. And I also saw a video where someone, I think it was almost a full moon she was looking at.
And it disappeared.
Yeah. It just hazed out from one side, and then all you could see was sky.
The last time I was up here at this same place was in June, when they had this solar eclipse, or this lunar eclipse, on June 12th or something. I didn't see the eclipse because it was cloudy that night. But the next evening it was very clear. And I was up early in the morning. And so I thought, I think I'll go out and stand in front of the house and look west. Because I know that the day or two after the full moon, you'll see the moon on the horizon in the west just before dawn. This is standard astronomy. I've been doing this for 45 years. So I go out about 5 in the morning, just before dawn, perfectly clear morning. Guess what? No moon. It's like, excuse me? How can this be possible? So people are seeing the moon disappear. People are seeing that there is no moon there when it's supposed to be there. And all I can say is it shows that the paradigm or mindset of astronomy that has taught us that these things are absolutely mechanical and never change is wrong. And that we are in a living cosmos which is interactive with our perception. And all we can do is go deeper into that interactivity to learn what these things mean. It's just amazing. Wow.
It sounds like times if you don't have imagination, you literally won't be able to see what's actually happening.
Well, if you don't have imagination, you're not going to survive in her dream. She gave us the power of imagination, which the Gnostics called a luminous epinoia. She even invested it right into our ribosomes and into our cellular structure as a luminescence that appears in the body. And this faculty of imagination she gave us so that we could overcome the archontic matrix, so that we could get out of the matrix of the archons. And it's a fantastic tool and a fantastic gift. And when you know how to play with it, it really works.
Awesome. This is my last question.
Sure.
You talked about Sophia bringing in Kundalini energy.
Right.
And I have tapped into Kundalini energy, or what I call it, with sex or with body work, where I have energy waves that go up through my spine, and my spine will undulate.
Right.
And I've also heard Kundalini described as primal energy,